India's final leg of qualification for the Asian Cup 2023 or not 24. We don't really know when exactly it's going to happen, but India have made a very successful start to the final round of qualification for the Asia Cup because as we know, the final round includes them being in a group with three other teams, that is Cambodia, Hong Kong, and Afghanistan. Their first match was against Cambodia, and they have started things off with a very comfortable 2-0 victory. And truth be told, that 2-0 victory doesn't really tell the entire story. Cambodia were, for the most part, not exactly the biggest threat going forward. And for the most part, they didn't, despite actually looking to defend hard, they didn't defend very well either, as can be evidenced by the fact that India ended up putting two past them and created so many chances that arguably they could have had quite a few more goals by the end of it, were it for some clinical finishing. As for the man who got those goals, well, when you think about Indian football right now and you think of goals, there's only one man you think of. That is indeed Sunil Chhetri. And yes, it was Mr. Chhetri who was once again on target twice, as India ended up registering a 2-0 win over Cambodia. Chhetri gets two more goals and he adds to his legend in the India blue. And of course, the Indian skipper, Talisman, was again the man of the hour when India needed a goal scorer both times. They were typically striker finishers because the first goal came after Liston Kalako won a penalty. And that was in the early parts of the game. India at that point were dominating possession but not really creating much in the way of chances, let's say. But they won the penalty when Liston Kalako went over. And by the way, I have to point out, after viewing a few replays, that penalty was generous to say the least. Liston definitely went down very easily. It could be classified simulation, but I mean, I'm an Indian football fan. I'm really not going to complain that much. That being said, the penalty was won. Chhetri converted it, so good on him. Very clinical penalty, low and hard to the keeper's right. The keeper guessed the right side, but there was no way he was stopping that. It was hit very, very well. And the second goal well came in the second half after Brandon Fernandez, who had been putting in quite a few decent balls into the box, got one absolutely spot on, found Sunil Chhetri unmarked, and all Chhetri did was simply nod the ball home. And that was it, 2-0, and the game pretty much seemed done and dusted at that point. Even Cambodia, who looked to be, on occasion looking to hit India with a few counterattacks here or there, pretty much just gave up, said, yeah, you know what, never mind, we're good. Remember, it's important to not lose by too big margins as well, because whilst, it is important that it is important that the group winners will qualify for sure. 5 of the 6 the best placed second best teams will also qualify for the Asia Cup. So it's not really game over for Cambodia. That being said, I just got a comment here from Supriya Sarkar, who says that we should score more goals and show more dominance against this team. Agreed. I'm actually going to come to that point, but first, let's look at what were the positives from this game. The biggest positive, of course, being the fact that Mr. Captain Leader Legend Sunil Chhetri himself was at his goal scoring best. India always better when Chhetri is both fit and firing, and thankfully he looked to be both of those. Of course, I know there'd be a few people out there, myself included, who thought that, yeah, maybe you could have kept him on, let him get a hat-trick, let India get a third. He is, after all, your best shot of getting goals. But it is also worth noting that he picked up a booking earlier on, and maybe that was just Tim Edge being cautious, saying, yeah, you know what, there's 2 more games, we don't want him picking up another booking and then missing out on the rest of the qualifiers. So in a way, you can understand the decision. Pragmatic, sure, but also sensible. And, Stimach won't really care that much about the fact that Chhetri missed out on a hat-trick. The fact is, he manages the team, and the team ended up getting a nice 2-0 win. Good way to start the tournament. India are, as things stand, currently at top of their group, because remember, the other team that won was, of course, Hong Kong. They beat Afghanistan 2-1. And now, of course, India will be on top of that on goal difference more than anything else, because again they didn't concede a single goal, whereas the other team, well, they did score. Afghanistan did score. So obviously, good news for Indian football fans and obviously you were expecting that maybe it would be a bit of a bumpy start, because India have previously shown form in similar vein that they do tend to struggle sometimes against teams who will sit deep against them. and they can't really create those chances to break down those teams. So in that sense, I personally was very relieved that India did manage to get 2 goals, get the win. It doesn't matter how you get the wins. At the end of the day, you don't win trophies for playing pretty football. You win trophies if you play winning football. In that sense, I'm very glad that India did manage to get a win. Very pleased with that. However, with the good stuff out of the way, let's get down to what was a little worrying. India under Stimac have been a team that has looked to be on the front foot more often than not, and they have succeeded in that. Their possession metrics have improved. They play more passes. They look to be more progressive, more attacking. But the biggest problem, and this was something that Aryan Yadav also pointed out, he said that India lacked the finishing ability. That's correct. The problem, one of the biggest problems of teams, or other teams that you would say one of the biggest things of teams that are just short of being world beaters or elite teams, is the difference of how they can finish chances. Now, India are creating chances, so that's the positive part. The negative part is they're still too reliant on Sunil Chhetri to actually finish those chances. And that's not to say that India don't have talented forwards. I mean, there's a Liston Kolako there, there's a Samad there who gets you goals from midfield. There's even Udanta, who till date, it can be a little frustrating when it comes to his finishing product, but the guy is very speedy, very creative, and can dribble very well. So it's not like India don't have the players to do it, but the bigger concern was that, again, they didn't create as many big chances as they should have, and the few big chances they did create, they didn't quite actually end up finishing. That obviously a big point of concern going into the remaining 2 games, because remember, even, and I must say this, that before India actually did score the penalty, they looked like you were heading for that sort of a game where, India would be dominating possession but not converting their chances, and that is indeed what ended up happening. And yes, as Abhinav Iyer points out, that yes, Udanta did miss quite a few golden opportunities, and that yes, it could have indeed been 4-0 or 5-0. And as Aryan Yadav also hilariously points out, yes, we finally won a home game under Stimac. Hopefully we win 2 more, top the group, and then be like, okay, you're done with that. You've secured qualification for the Asian Cup. Let's move on. Anshuman, I want you to elaborate on the point of you saying that there were too many problems in arranging the match, because for me, I think everything went off smoothly, and any organizational problems came down to the AIFF themselves. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. Akshay Nayak, trust me, I'm happy to be covering Indian football myself. And as you can see, currently in the comfort of my home, but I was sitting and watching the match, and of course, well, I thought I'd hop onto the YouTube and have a little chat with you guys, my family members. And yes, I agree with you, Aryan. It is concerning that only Chhetri is scoring, but that's the way it's been for years, unfortunately. Right, the national anthem of Cambodia. Okay, if anyone's wondering what Anshuman Mont is referring to, there was a bit of a glitch earlier on where they announced that they'd be playing the Cambodian national anthem, then ended up playing the Indian national anthem. Obviously not ideal under any circumstances, but it's the kind of thing that can happen. So let's not be too, critical. That does happen. Funny error. See it, move on. End of the day, what matters most is that India have made a winning start to their Asian Cup qualifying campaign. Now, obviously, if they can get a second win in their next match, ideally they should look to win all 3, because all 3 of these teams are lower ranked than them, not quite as strong. And get 3 wins, you're guaranteed top spot. You're guaranteed qualification for the Asian Cup. Everyone's happy. But let's take it one game at a time. For today, I'm happy that India managed to get the win. But let's see what happens in the next game. And don't worry, I will be there with you guys, previewing that, analyzing it when it happens. All of that will be happening, so don't forget to join us. And that's me taking the time off for now. Thank you all for joining me on this little video of ours. If you enjoy what it is that we do, don't forget to like the video, share it with your friends, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We're always covering sports from around the world, not just in India, but from around the world too. We have plenty of stuff coming for you guys, 24/7, 365. So I hope you enjoyed what it is we do. If you do, don't forget to again like, share, subscribe, hit the bell icon so you know when it is we are posting something new. And as always, stay tuned with Sports Today across channels. We are there on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, you name it, we're there. As always, I've been Shane Reyes, and I will see you guys tomorrow. Thank you. Good night.